All right. Welcome, everyone, to Knox Makers. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. That means we're going to show off projects that we're working on or failed on or completed successfully. We like to see it all. We do have a sign-up sheet, and it looks like we have quite a few sign-ups today, so we're going to get started on those. The very first thing on the list is Shane, who wants to talk about van conversion project. Shane, you want to come up here?
Hello, I'm Shane. If I get any kind of delusional statements, I've been awake for about 58 hours now. I just flew in. I literally just landed at about 1 o'clock coming in from Philippines. So I literally drove straight here. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for letting me speak to you. So I have a project that I'm working on that I could use some help with. I'm disabled. I have a very good idea of what I want to do and how I want to do it. It's a very simple project in my opinion, but again, I'm disabled, so I do need a little bit of help, right? I'm a tech instructor, scuba diving, and I'm a scuba diving instructor, tech instructor, and I've certified hundreds of different divers throughout, whatever. And so I have recently applied, not recently, I think in April, I got accepted with Guinness World Records. I'm going to do the deepest dive by a disabled diver. I'm going to dive down to 150 meters. I was going to do that dive in the Philippines, but the current there is very, very dangerous. It's very strong current. And if I leave off, if I get pushed off of this line at 150 meters, I'm dead. Because if they can't find me, I can't find them. They have my air, I need them, so it's very dangerous. So I decided to do the dive at a different place. So I've been in contact with a dive shop in Key West, Florida Keys, in Key Largo, and I'm going to start working there and start training to finish this dive. Okay. With that being said, I'm also a filmmaker. I've worked on major films. The last two movies I worked on was Bad Boys 3 and Zombieland 2. I fly drones for the TV and film industry. So I've decided to document this process and really kind of film the process of what it takes to even get to the point of diving down to 150 meters. And I want to do this project showing them that I was able to do all of this. And I want to convert this van that I just picked up 2 hours ago. And I want to convert this van to where I can stay in this van, just sleep, just basic stuff. I just want a place where I can, as I'm traveling around doing this project, that I have a place to sleep and that I don't have to worry about traveling with all my gear, which I have a ton of gear, from hotel to hotel to hotel. It was easier for me to have a van that I can go there. If I get tired, pull over, sleep, chill, and get my gear out wherever I'm going, okay? So that's what I'm doing. I have a van out in the parking lot. I just picked up an hour ago. I have a very ambitious goal in mind, and the first step to this goal is I really need to get a place to sleep inside this van. Now, here comes the hard part. The time frame. I initially contacted via the website. I found out about this organization, which I absolutely love. I love anything. In fact, we were just talking, Isaac and I used to be the president of the chair committee of Spark upstairs. But it was when I was there, it was called East Tennessee Technology, whatever, because I wrote a segue and I was suing Simon Malls because I was using technology for my disability. And they really loved me and loved the project and everything else. But long story. Anyways, my original idea was to come here, meet you guys, and work with you guys. And then I got a call from one of my students, and he wants me to teach him technical diving with him and his father that coincides with his commitment of going down to this into Florida. So my original time frame was unlimited. Now I have to be in Florida in 2 weeks. So that's the big I think now keep in mind when I say van build, I'm not talking plumbing and electrical. I'm literally just talking about a bed, a place to put some stuff, and drawers that are from Amazon, a plastic drawer set. We're not talking anything crazy. The craziest thing I think would be the walls with tongue and groove and the flooring. You know, other than that, it's really a very simple, in my opinion, simple build. But I need some help. Yeah, so that's it. I guess. Do I take questions or
You can say come meet you afterward.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Yeah. So I'm Shane. That's my pitch. So if you want to learn more and maybe help, meet me afterwards. Yeah. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. Definitely, if you're interested in helping out, see him afterward, and maybe you all can get that done in 2 weeks. And it's a pretty tight schedule. All right, next on the list is Dan, who's going to show a filter box for metalworking area. Right?
Yep. Sorry, you had to read my handwriting there. Okay. So a while back, and Russell can say whenever it was, I volunteered to build the filter box that we needed. Huh? 2012? I've not been a member that long. But anyway, so I finally got it done. It's all finished and everything. One of the things I learned in the process of building this filter box was that gray elm is not the best wood for building filter boxes. But it was so pretty sitting there at Jeffrey's that I was like, that's what I'm going to build this out of. One of the things I discovered was that it doesn't like to take a card finish, which is the way I really wanted to finish it. It's one of those woods that when you run a card across it, you get a lot of tear out. So you had to sand it. So I did sand it, but it actually turned out really nice. So this is it sitting on the table after I finished it. So it does looks pretty, but it was more work than I thought it was going to be. But I also did some things to it that I thought would make maintenance on it easier. I put supports on the door of it so that when you open it up, the door will stay up, which would give you access to the filter box when you build it. So it's on both sides. And then because you didn't really want the door, oh, thank you, Billy. You didn't want the door just flying open, and you want to keep the air actually pulling through the filters. I also put hooks on that. So if you do need to go up there and prop that door open to do any maintenance on there, I don't know if any of you in here would be the HVAC person doing that, but or if you're here when they come to do that, make sure they know that those hooks are inside so that they don't just try yanking the door off and tearing things up. And then I did a bunch, put some weather stripping basically all around the bottom and to seal it all up and some caulk and stuff. So that's what it looks like in there now. I had to kind of get close because there's a fluorescent light that's like right up in here. So I was trying to get it to where you could see the filter box without that, and here you can see the light there. But yeah, so I took a lot longer to build it than I should have, but I made a few mistakes and then just kind of had to adapt to what I was doing along the way. But now we've got a filter box in there, and I can tell you, and Billy can attest to this, even before I had it all sealed up, it was pulling a lot of dirt through those filters. They may need to get changed more than once a week. But when you go to, whoever volunteers to change the filters in the woodworking area, please also go into the metalworking area and get those two filters as well. It's the same size as what are in the woodworking area. So, any questions? Yes, Russell.
Not a question.
Oh.
I would like to say thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, Thank you, Dan. That's probably the prettiest filter box I've ever seen in my life. All right. Next up is Toby, who's going to show bar tap handle. Okay.
Okay, so I've done a lot of crazy things at Knox Makers and away from Knox Makers. So I've actually got a friend that's a bartender that was working at Hooters on Kingston Pike, and I 3D scanned her and made her into a bar tap handle at one point. So I decided I wanted to make some changes to that, and I'm wanting to do something totally unheard of, but yet it happens. So I've seen some of the bar tap handles that you actually pull to pour beer with at restaurants, and I've seen one or two online that has lights up in it, but yet every single one has wires going to a wall wart that actually plugs into an outlet. And I was like, how could I make it with a battery instead? So I started changing and probably have to zoom out a little bit. So I took the same base that I had, and I figured, well, I'll just go ahead and run a light through it and a little battery box, and I would go ahead and light it up. So that was test wiring number one. Did not care for that design, so I decided I would go ahead and change it up to look like a normal tap handle. Well, the other thing is, I also had to figure out how to get the lights up in there, and I thought, if I put it up there with both of the feet, and yes, I will show the actual tap handle here in a second. So I actually went ahead and did a cutout piece into it where you can go ahead and slot all the wiring, and then the little battery box would actually glue down the bottom, and this would actually go through that little notch. So I was thinking, well, let's go ahead and see what it'll look like when I print it in clear resin and see how far it would actually go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and printed the whole person in clear resin. So it actually looks this big with a metal screw-in handle to go ahead and put on the little spigot, so that way when you pull it, it'll actually light up. I left the same wiring and everything in the bottom where I could take the LEDs, light up, and pop through there. And then I realized that's not going to show all the way through. It only shows up maybe to the waist. So my next iteration will be to print it hollow instead of solid, because I forgot when you print this, and it actually printed like that, there's banding lines through the whole 3D model. Therefore, it diffuses the light and will not let the light go all the way through it. Whereas I have printed some about this tall that were hollow, and the light just goes all the way through the whole model. So, did I learn a few things? Yes. Did I fail? I learned enough to where it's not a failure, but it's a learning process. The part that I did fail with was when I first printed this pyramid piece, it had very, very sharp edges. So I spent 2 days learning FreeCAD on my own without any instructions, just watching videos, and I spent 2 days to figure out how to go ahead and bevel that stupid edge all the way around. And then I realized all the videos I'm watching don't show me how to start a model from scratch. They just show, hey, here's how to edit. So when I was exporting it, it would only export the sharp parts of it and lose all my changes. So I learned a lot doing this process. I also learned a lot from the people in electronics about surface mount LEDs, which that happens to be one of them. So it's a teeny tiny bright one. And then, of course, I also learned that since I'm powering these all with a standard Walmart coin battery, that they make lithium ion batteries that are also the exact same model that are rechargeable. So I bought some chargers for them, and the lithium ions are actually in the mail right now coming to me. So that way I'll have rechargeable batteries. So that way when they run out, I could just go ahead and pop open the battery box. Got how these things open. But basically, they'll pop open and I can just go ahead and replace the batteries. So that way, instead of running out, the rechargeable batteries will make it, whoever I give the tap handle to, give them a charger, a couple of batteries, that way they can just swap it out when it goes near dead. And yes, I used a fry box to go ahead and hold all my parts. But I did a test part with just the feet to go ahead and show how the lights were going to show up through there, because I went ahead and rounded it to match the lights, and I was like, didn't think things through. But thanks, Rob. You helped me out quite a bit. But after I got to thinking, I was like, I think I know how to fix it. So I'm just going to call this a prototype instead of a failure. And then I also found out how to make the back of it to where the little plug, actually, once it goes in there, there's actually no seam, no gap at all on there too. So it looks more like a battery plug than anything else. The print itself, 13 hours. So that way, I knew you were going to ask, 13 hours. And the designing, the scanning of the person took maybe 5 minutes to go ahead and scan, but it's 2 days on the beveling, but 30 seconds on the actual pyramid. Yes?
How long does battery last?
Haven't tested that part yet, because I got to the point to where it shines up the waist. I do want to test the battery and all like that. I was going to test it this weekend, but instead I decided to go ahead and print it. So I meant to go ahead and just turn the light on and sit there with a stopwatch and see how long the battery does, but I have no clue yet. And now that I've swapped it over from one battery to two, I've got to wire two of them up and see how two of them actually make it go dead. Or I can change the lighting, one of the two.
I'm sure there's some formula around something.
Probably. Yes.
So it's clear resin and it lights up, so it's basically a lamp.
Yes. So once I get it hollowed out and it shines up all the way through, yes, I will enter it into the maker market as a lamp. So, but I will actually probably mount it on the little spigot so that way you can actually pull the handle too. Any other questions? Yes. I'm probably going to do it 1 millimeter thin, so that way it's still got the outside shell and dimensions and everything, but yet I want it to be hollow enough to where light will shine up through. So I really don't know what's going to take. It's going to be a guesstimation.
Is it sturdy enough with that thin to like actually use it as a
I know. I'll find out once I get it printed. But I'm pretty sure that even at 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter, it should be, I mean, the base is the part that actually grabs on the tap. This you could do with a pinky. So that's the actual part from up here is not really that worrisome as much as the, they will be hollow as well. The light will go all the way up through the legs. So I'm keeping the base the way it is. Going to make the person hollow and see if that works. Had another question? Someone? Yes.
Sorry if you already said this, but is that a real person?
Yes, it is. This is actually was a bartender at the Hooters on Kingston Pike, and actually it's probably this one's going to be the better one to light, but you can actually see, I mean, there's quite a bit of detail in the actual print. And I actually did go to Hooters at Kingston Pike and scan her and her other significant other was a bartender at Twin Peaks, so she has a scan of her as well. So they both have it, and they're building a kegerator for their, which is basically a little mini fridge with, you know, the keg pull, and they wanted themselves as their own tap handles. And I was like, I think I can make that happen. So it did happen. Any other great? Yes, I'm stupid for doing it, but I'm just like, I've not seen it done. I'm going to see if I can make it happen. If it does, maybe it'll go viral. I don't know.
See, I did a similar project a couple of years ago. You try and print it all and make sure you add a bit to both top and bottom, otherwise the resin will get trapped.
Yes, I do know that. I've failed that way before. If the resin gets trapped, about 3 days later, it explodes. So yes, that I do know on the, and hopefully by putting the holes in the feet, it's got the air hole to go ahead and go through it. So it should be applicable. If not, then I'll have to go ahead and put a hole in the top with a plug to go ahead and glue the plug back in, one of the two. Any other questions? That's it.
Thank you, Toby. Next up is Neil, who's going to give us a wood turning classes update.
So we did a little bit of introspective about what's happening with the wood turning classes and how fast they used to sell out, and they're not selling out as fast now. So between Randy and I, we have decided and agreed that we're going to skip a month. We'll start offering the classes every other month. That's the woodworking 102 and 202 classes. But we are going to keep having the As the Lathe Turns social the third Thursday of every month. And the one that's coming up next week, we try and time these the main themes for what we think is appropriate. So the one coming up next Thursday will be about easy and quick things that you can turn on the lathe, which is good for the holidays, either as gifts or decorations. And I'm not quite sure what else Randy's going to come up with. The last ATLT, he brought in some tools to do some hollow turning, which was an incredible demonstration. So for those of you who don't know what the As a Lathe Turn is, it's an opportunity to come in there, bring your problems, ask for questions, see a demonstration, bring in a piece of wood you don't know how to cut, and for the lathe and so forth. And let me see one other thing. Oh, another thing too, you're going to notice a very strange looking mirror that's going to be up above the lathe, the big lathe, Grizzly lathe. And what that's for is you will now be able to stand behind somebody who's turning on the lathe and actually get a bird's eye view of what's happening on the lathe. So that's going to come in handy in the classes, and it's going to come in handy as far as keeping people out of the danger zone. And for those of you who don't know about it, there is a danger zone on the lathe that if somebody loses a piece and it comes flying off, it's going to aim directly into that danger zone. So this will make it more safer as far as being able to stand in the right place and still see everything that's going on. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know what the latest numbers are. We have a 102 class tomorrow. I think there's still one slot open for that, one ticket. You already took it? Well, next week then on the 202 class, and the difference between the two is the 102 is a authorization class to use a lathe, and the 202 class is for more advanced processes that you can do on the lathe, like bowl turning, the different tools. And speaking of tools, I was informed recently, I guess I've been a good boy this year because they invited me to write a list, make up a list of the things that I would like to have added to the wood turning between tools and accessories. So if anybody has any suggestions, something that you've been on the lathe or you know about that would be good for us to have, let me know. Because I haven't finished putting up that list yet, but I'm anxious to put it in and see what I can get and when I can get it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Neil. All right, next up is Brandon with a box.
So unfortunately, my box is not going to be nearly as functional as the filter box, but it didn't take me 12 years to make it. So a few months ago at one of the First Friday events downtown, I'm sure a lot of the people here have attended those, the art walks downtown, Epiphone had a guitar art auction. They donated a bunch of guitars to local high schools and middle schools, had the kids paint them, and auction them off as a fundraiser for the art programs. I wound up with one of the guitars. It was really cool, very much my style, but terrified to play it because it's not finished. It's just acrylic paint on this guitar, essentially. So I wanted to make a display box for it, and it wound up growing into a pretty large project. So to start with, I actually used AI for this. It took about 40 iterations before I finally got something I was happy with. This is the design I wanted in the back of the box. Let's see, how should I rotate this? Yeah. So uploaded a picture in Inkscape, started getting it in the laser, wouldn't get it to rotate right. Turns out when you want to raster an image with the laser, you have to upload it into Inkscape in the correct orientation first. You can't upload it after you get it into Inkscape. So that's one of the lessons learned from this. Second lesson learned, to quote Tracy, I'm going to get the exact words wrong, but when I uploaded this in the laser cutting chat, asking for help with the rotation, she said, "Whoa, that's a big image." And it was. It took way longer than I was planning on the laser, so I started this at 9 in the morning on the laser cutter, and around 1 o'clock, sorry, this is the box I started to frame up before I actually started it. But so this is, okay, so yeah, about 1 o'clock, or maybe 11 o'clock actually is when this image was. That's how far it was. So after 2 hours, I made it maybe 3% of the way through the image. Realized, yeah, I don't have a day and a half, 2 days to sit here and stare at this thing. So I went with plan B. Oh yeah, part of the plan was ordering pizza because I couldn't leave. So plan B, I decided to stop that image about 20% of the way through here and just leave the middle blank with the wood and then restart the lasering on the other border. And that's where I stopped the first side, and that actually worked out fairly well. So this was the box once I got it all framed up, glued, dried, carrying it home. This was the acrylic panel I cut on the laser for the case frame, framing it up, gluing it here, or taping, I guess, to use some 3M VHB tape for that. I lost it. All right, putting that together. So that is the box once I finished the lasering. And even though it looked pretty cool, it still felt like it really needed something. So before I put all the mounting hardware and screwed all the hinges on, that day we went to Punk Rock Flea Market downtown and found a really cool piece to go in there from Drum Art Nashville. They take old drum heads and paint designs on them, and I found one that fit the guitar really well. Pull it down over here. I don't know, where would be the best spot to sit this? Right here. Like that. So once I got the hinges screwed on, I realized once I hung it on the wall, the hinges kind of hung loosely. So I took some neodymium magnets I had laying around, 3D printed some little brackets here embedded those, stopped the print right before that top skin, put the magnets in, printed over it, and then just glued some electrical panel cutouts or knockouts on there, and it lashes on really nicely. Yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out overall. Another lesson I learned, despite what I said in the laser cutting channel, the bug where it still lasers during a raster when you pause it is still there. After what Amos said about that line I got, I don't know if y'all can see it, but right here in the top corner, that's where I paused the print, and when I started to go to the right border, you can see kind of a diagonal line engraved in. If the laser is still firing when you pause it, when you tell it to go to another print job, if you're using the rastering feature, it will just laser all the way over there. So I was able to pause it before it got too far. So yeah, that's another lesson learned. So any questions?
How long ago that take?
Ooh, about 3 days total. The box itself, about half a day. The lasering took 14 hours overall with just those 2 borders. And then getting all the mounting and hanging hardware about another day, and hinges. Yeah. Thanks.
Very cool. I was looking forward to seeing that after listening to it in the channel. You need some help? All right, last up on our list is Randy, who's going to show a spa parts.
When I moved to the Knoxville area 3 years ago, I'd come from a house where I'd had a spa, and the new one did not, so I went and joined National Fitness Center because I know how much it costs to operate and maintain any kind of pool or spa equipment. Much cheaper to pay $35 a month and go use their thing that they maintain, which, as it turns out, all kinds of maintenance issues. It's been down quite a bit. About 3 weeks ago, I showed up at the spa, and this thing was bouncing around in there. This is basically a nozzle for one of the jets. And you can probably see these little ridges right here. They basically clamp on and they wear out, and then the water pressure just pushes this out. No amount of putting it back will fix it. So I turned that in to the people at the front desk and told them, you know, with this missing, you get 2 really bad effects. One, where the jet is gone, there's this giant bubbling where all the air is coming out of that one jet, splashing you in the face, even sitting across the other side of the spa. And the second thing is all the other jets are dead because all the air is coming out of that guy. So yeah, we'll get it fixed. 3 weeks later, I'm still getting hit in the face by this bubbling monstrosity. So Sunday, I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I swiped a good one of these things, figuring no one would notice it missing because it was right next to the one that was broken. Went home, got out Fusion 360 and made a model of this guy, and printed this guy. Took it back Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Now the gym opens at 5:30, so I figured, you know, in the half hour at night and the 2.5 hours the next morning, no one's going to notice a jet missing. Well, I decided to pick the day they were going to clean the spa at night. So in the morning, this thing was sitting on the edge because they'd tried to put the old one back in, so obviously they didn't notice that it was missing, but that's okay because I fixed it, and it worked. This guy here is the second of 3 prints. The first one, the little legs were too thin. The second one, which is this one, this little ball, this little ball here was a little bit too loose. The third one, I made the ball a lot tighter. Still not quite good enough. I mean, the resolution of a 3D printer isn't going to match injection molding on this guy. But I took it in, shoved it into the spa, and lo and behold, no bubbling mess anymore. So that was great. Got that out of the way. Just as and I had to print this thing sideways for strength reasons, so you can see all the massive amount of support this thing takes. Had to print it like this because if you print it like this, these legs are going to break off when any stress is put on them. Just as a postscript on this thing, so I printed up a couple extra of these guys because I figured these things aren't going to last anywhere near as long as the original OEM piece. So I took a couple spares in and said, hey, you know, when that guy wears out, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months, I don't know. Here's a couple, and they go, oh, you should have just told us. Those things are a dime a dozen at the pool supply in Knoxville. Now, I've been to a pool supply, and I know something like this is not a dime a dozen. It's going to cost you $25 to $50. That's how pool supplies are. But nonetheless, I had fun. I'm playing around with Fusion a lot. This is all printed on one piece. This is actually, the original part is 3 pieces. There's a little ring right here that pops out. You can see the indentation. There's the jet thing swivels in there. I printed this all in one, including the little ball. The thing works great, except for one thing. The failure on this is that the ball, because of 3D printing resolution, it's not very smooth. And I had to put a fair amount of space between the ball and the wall so that it didn't just fuse with this thing. And as a result, this thing is really loose, and what happens is when you get in and adjust the thing so that it's pointing it wherever you want it to point, within a few seconds the water pressure just straightens it right back out. That turns out not to be a problem because I know that I'm the only one there that ever adjusts the jets on that thing, because I'll adjust it and a month later it's still the way I adjusted it. So I'm not too worried about people noticing that. So that was it. Any questions? Sure.
What kind of material?
ABS. PLA would dissolve in the water. PETG, just a little bit brittle, and wasn't too sure about how it would turn out. And looking at this guy, it's probably ABS as well. So, any other questions? Only other comment I'd make is that ABS is supposedly going to shrink 3%. I made it the same size as this guy, and this was actually tough pushing in, whereas this guy slides right in. So that was a little bit surprising. Now I'm using a new printer. I bought a Carbon X1, a Bamboo Labs Carbon X1, and used their brand of ABS. So I'm probably just getting different results than I've had on my other printers in the past. So, hey, thank you.
That is the last on the signups. Amos, you got something?
It is a bucket. Yes, it's a bucket, and the thing that happens with these cheap $4 to $5-ish buckets is eventually the little plastic handle breaks. And we had like 4 of them with the handle broken. I was like, I bet somebody has solved this already. So I searched online, and I found this right here. And this is printed in PETG, and it has this little dovetail component here that slides in like that. So then you can put that on like that, and it slides on, and it's so much more comfortable than the stock handles. Highly recommend it. It takes like 2 hours to print if you do it with like 4 parameters. So yeah, highly recommend that. So that was one thing. The other thing I was going to say is you may have noticed there's a partially constructed building in the other room. That is going to be a paint booth. Yes, it's like for a downdraft booth that will take the exhaust from like spray painting and push it outside. I would like that to be operational by the Makers Market. However, I am very over capacity for what time I can actually put towards that for the next few weeks. So I am soliciting help for people to take lead on 2 micro projects that will very much make the likelihood of that being operational by the market higher. And basically, what I need is I need to build a replacement panel for the garage door, and we need to also build a frame that will raise it up just all the way around the perimeter. It's just simple plywood stick together with some screws operations, but I cannot be here on the weekends between now and the market, and that's a big problem. So if you think you may be interested in helping to make that operational faster, see me afterwards.
Yeah, come on up.
So I'm Forrest Lee Erickson. I go by my middle name Lee, which I've probably told many of you here before. I've been a member probably a little less than a year, got checked out in the wood shop, and then hunted around to look at tools, and much to my delight, found this. Yeah, there we go. How do we zoom out? Wide. There we go. And it is a wood plane. And it's missing its blade. And because I had damaged the blade on my plane at home, I learned about sharpening blades, and so it was a delight to say, ooh, this would be an opportunity to perhaps make a blade. And so I have made a plane blade. This is just made out of hot rolled steel. I'm sure it has quite a sharp edge on it right now, and it probably won't last for long. And then the tall gentleman who can be found operating the forge, whose name I'm real good at forgetting, Cohen, he had some steel that was blue and has been hardened, he thinks, and he gave me a couple of chunks of it, and so I've made blades out of that. I've not put any effort into next figuring out how I'm going to heat them up and quench them, and I know there's more reading involved, and he's told me some things, but my memory for these details, that by the time he's at the last sentence, I don't remember the first sentence. But there's a fun thing about plane blades that occurs to me I want to share with people here in hopes that someone here would like to try and solve that. All right. And if you do a search on, come on. And of course, because I'm up here with everyone's attention, it, oh goodness. There we go. Oh yeah, I select manufacturer's mark on plane blades and it brings up a camera. All right. And like so many things, the thing that I was working moments ago is now different. What if I select image? All right, here we go. Amongst the things, all right. Amongst the things I've learned about plane blades is that it is common for the manufacturer of a plane blade to put their name or maybe a maker's mark on one side of the plane, and the convention is that it would be the side of the blade that you can see when the blade is properly in. So in the ideal world, there should be a mark right here that looks like Knox Makers. And as the programs were going on and someone was talking about drawing with lasers, I'm like thinking, perhaps someone here might know how that could be made to happen. And we could get a Knox Maker mark on all these 3 blades. I think I've said everything I can about it. They're not ready to try yet. I got to figure out the next step of being brave and heat them up and harden. Any questions? All right. I guess I should ask, does anyone have any idea whatever happened to the blade that was in this plane? All right. Its history is lost.
I think I can say with pretty much certainty that we can definitely use the laser on this and put a Knox Makers logo. Yes, come on. Let's see.
Let's see. So this was me at a maker fair years ago, back in San Antonio, where I was showing off my aluminum castings. So one of the things I like to do whenever there is a maker fair in town, I'd end up doing a aluminum coral sculpture. Let's see. No, wrong way. So this is essentially, I would have a bucket filled with Orbeez. If you're ever familiar with them, they're little balls you soak in water. They grow like 50 times their size. Well, since they're mostly water, aluminum loves to just solidify around them. So this whole structure is just kind of molten aluminum that was poured into a bucket full of these Orbeez, giving them the individual divots. So I like to call it just aluminum coral. So I always had fun doing that for demonstrations. There had been some discussion in the Foundry chat about how to make ingots with logos on them. This was the makerspace I was with before with its logo. Unfortunately, and this was sand casted, so that's supposed to be a little tin in the middle of a circuit board. It didn't turn out super well, but it is able to turn out. So I'm hoping to try and make a new one using the Knox Makers logo. The thing is that these are just way too small for practical application in an aluminum foundry furnace. This is a muffin pan in comparison, and this is a mini muffin pan in comparison, and I'm liking the mini muffin pan for being able to just safely add a chunk of aluminum at a time to add to your crucible while it's warming up. That's all I really had to say. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, so classes coming up. We have quite a few classes on the schedule for the next couple weeks. Tomorrow is a blacksmithing off class. I know a lot of people were interested in. It did have tickets last I looked before we started here. And so grab those quick if you want to do that. Also the wood turning basics, which I think just sold out. We're talking about, that was the off class for that. Then Thursday is a new member onboarding. If you are a new member or a prospective member, or you just want to learn more about how Knox Makers does the things it does, why it does the things it does, it's a great thing to do. If you're wanting to become a member, it is a requirement to become a member. So that happens twice a month, and this Thursday is one of them. Friday is another blacksmithing off. It had tickets as well, and there's a woodworking 101 also has tickets available. So that's the authorization class for the woodworking zone. That's this Friday. Next Wednesday, embroidery off. I think that one's sold out. And then the advanced turning that Neil talked about is, I think, does that require the off class to do? No, it doesn't require the off class, but there were tickets available for that as well. Next Thursday's As the Lathe Turns, which Neil talked about as well. And then next Saturday is Stitch and Bitch, which is the fiber arts zones, social time, come and work on fiber things and talk. Yeah. As far as announcements, October 12th is the market. We'll be doing the market again. We need lots of volunteers. See Russell, see Aliki, get involved. We have a channel You can join to get involved and volunteer. There's a sign up, I think. Russell has a sign up for that. Also, Kill Switch, we're doing the actual Kill Switch Classic, 3-pound robots out of just about anything. There is a sign-up form online. We put the link online. If you need it, let us know. There is no fee to join, so just sign up, register your robot with your team name, make a robot, and come fight it. We're going to do that on October 12th at the market. So, yeah. Other than that, please check the filters. If any of them need change, please change them. If you don't know how to change the filters, we're happy to show you so that you can change them in the future. If any of the garbages are full, please take them out to the dumpster. Maybe spend a minute or two cleaning something up. Yeah, other than that, we're going to go play in the workshop. Let's go do that.